Do you ever feel stuck? Stuck in an old way of thinking about your job, your relationships, or maybe even about yourself? Have you ever been in a heated argument where both sides dig their heels in, defending their own points, and it ends up going nowhere, leaving everyone feeling drained and disconnected? Or perhaps, looking back at a past decision, you find yourself wishing you could have fought differently, being more open, more flexible. If any of that sounds familiar, even just a little bit, trust me, you are definitely not alone. And the good news is that there's a kind of superpower we can all cultivate to break free from those mental traps, make wiser choices, and live a life with fewer regrets. That superpower is rethinking, or as the title of the book we're diving into today puts it, Think Again. This book, Think Again by Adam Grant, an incredibly respected organizational psychologist and a top professor at Wharton, has made huge waves globally. It's not just your average self-help book. It's truly a revolutionary look at how we perceive intelligence and learning. The Washington Post called it the best nonfiction book of 2021, and it's consistently been on the New York Times bestseller list. So, what makes this book so special? Today, here at BookSmart Insights, we're going to take a deep dive into the world of Think Again. We'll explore why rethinking is so crucial in our constantly changing world, what's secretly holding us back from doing it, and most importantly, how we can actively train this skill of rethinking, not just for ourselves, but also to help those around us become more open-minded too. So grab your favorite drink, get comfortable, settle in with an open mind, and let's embark on this fascinating journey together. We're living in an era where change happens at lightning speed. Technology evolves daily, the job market transforms, and information explodes at an incredible pace. A confusing mix of fact and fiction. The knowledge you learn today might be outdated tomorrow. A business strategy that was once wildly successful could now lead to failure. A belief you once held as absolute truth might no longer fit the reality. Adam Grant points out an interesting paradox. We're willing to upgrade the things around us. We get new phones when they slow down, buy new clothes with the seasons, and renovate our homes when they look worn. But strangely, when it comes to the invisible things that shape our lives the most, our beliefs, opinions, and knowledge, we often tend to cling to them fiercely. We hold on to what we know and what we trust as if they were an inseparable part of who we are. Why does this happen? Because holding on to old beliefs feels safe and comfortable. Our brains love stability. They love familiar paths. Questioning what we believe and admitting we might be wrong makes us feel insecure and unsteady. It's like walking down a familiar road and suddenly having to stop, re-examine the map, and maybe even turn around and go in a completely different direction. That takes effort, courage, and accepting uncertainty. Adam Grant calls this phenomenon seizing and freezing. We seize on a perspective and then freeze it, refusing to let new information or different viewpoints shake it. He even bluntly calls us cognitive misers. We prefer the ease of sticking with what we have, rather than grappling with the complexity of learning and changing. Think about a carpenter who only uses a hammer for every single task, from tapping on tiny nails to intricate wood carving. The work wouldn't be efficient, and the final product would hardly be perfect. Our thinking is similar. If we only have one fixed set of beliefs and opinions in our mental toolkit, we'll struggle to solve the diverse and complex problems life throws at us. Rethinking isn't just about changing your mind. It's an active process of questioning what you believe, seeking out contrary evidence, and being willing to update your thoughts based on what you learn. It's like installing new software for your brain, removing old bugs and adding superior features. In the book, Grant recounts the haunting story of the Man Gulch wildfire in 1949. a team of elite smoke jumpers found themselves trapped by flames on a hillside. The foreman, Wag Dodge, in a life-or-death moment, did something unthinkable, something that went against all their training. Instead of trying to outrun the fire nipping at their heels, he stopped. He lit a small escape fire in the grass ahead of him, creating a patch of scorched earth with nothing left to burn. Then, he wet his handkerchief, covered his mouth, and lay face down in the burned area. The main fire roared past him on either side and overhead. He survived. Tragically, most of his crew didn't follow him. They clung to their old experience, the procedures they'd learned, dig a fire line or outrun the flames. They also refused to drop their heavy tools, even when Dodge yelled at them to do so. Why? Because those tools were part of their identity as firefighters. Dropping them meant admitting defeat, abandoning their role. They were so stuck in what they knew that they could. Only Dodge and two others, who dropped their gear and ran fast enough, survived. This story, while extreme, powerfully illustrates the cost of not daring to think again. In our daily lives, the consequences might not be so tragic, but the missed opportunities, the avoidable mistakes, and the broken relationships due to rigid thinking happen far more often than we realize. Maybe you're sticking with a job that no longer fits just because it's familiar. Maybe you missed a great investment opportunity because it was different from what I know. Maybe you hurt a loved one because you refused to listen and reconsider their perspective. As the famed futurist Alvin Toffler said, the illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. In a world that itself is constantly relearning, the ability to think again is the golden key that allows us not just to survive, but to truly thrive and succeed. So if rethinking is that important, why do we so often avoid it? Adam Grant identifies several common psychological roadblocks, traps that our own minds tend to set for us. Roadblock number 1, the ego and our default thinking modes. Have you noticed how, when discussing certain topics, we often slip into one of 3 roles Adam Grant describes so vividly? The first role is the preacher. When our core beliefs are challenged, we switch into this mode. We sermonize and defend our views at all costs, finding every reason to prove ourselves right and others wrong. The goal is to convert others to our ideology. The second role is the prosecutor. When we spot flaws in someone else's argument, we become the prosecutor. We attack, criticize, nitpick, trying to win the debate by demolishing their points. The third role is the politician. When we want to win approval or gain support, we act like a politician. We seek validation and tailor our message to please the crowd, sometimes sacrificing truth for likability or acceptance. What do all 3 modes have in common? They all prioritize proving themselves right or winning the argument over seeking the truth and learning. They're driven by ego, by the desire to protect our image and our beliefs. When we fall into these modes, the door to rethinking slams shut. Grant isn't saying these modes are entirely bad. Sometimes we do need to persuade like a preacher, point out errors like a prosecutor, or rally support like a politician. The problem is we often get stuck in them for too long, especially when faced with opposing views on matters important to us. Roadblock number 2, confirmation bias and desirability bias. These two are a powerful duo that hinders our ability to see reality objectively. Confirmation bias. This is our tendency to seek out, interpret, and remember information that confirms our existing beliefs while ignoring or downplaying information that contradicts them. If you believe a certain investment is good, you'll eagerly read positive news about it and dismiss warnings of risk. Desirability bias. This is our tendency to see what we want to see. We distort reality to fit our desires. For example, a smoker might focus only on anecdotes of long-lived smokers and ignore the overwhelming scientific evidence about its dangers. These biases act like colored glasses, making us view the world only through a lens pre-tinted by our beliefs and desires. They turn our intelligence into a weapon against the truth rather than a tool to discover it. The smarter we are, the better we become at finding sophisticated arguments to defend our biases. Adam Grant calls this one of the great ironies. Intelligence doesn't automatically lead to better thinking. Sometimes it reinforces flawed thinking. The classic example of BlackBerry's downfall illustrates this perfectly. Mike Lazaridis, BlackBerry's creator, was a brilliant engineer and a phenomenal inventor. He excelled at thinking within his technical domain. But when the iPhone arrived, with its touchscreen and app ecosystem, he couldn't think again about the mobile phone market. He was swayed by confirmation and desirability bias. He believed that business users, BlackBerry's core customers, only needed email and a physical keyboard, the very things that made BlackBerry successful. He wanted to believe that touchscreens and apps were just frivolous toys that drained batteries and clogged networks. He found every reason to defend that belief, convinced the entire company to follow his lead, and completely missed the smartphone wave. The result? BlackBerry went from market dominance to rapid decline. Roadblock number 3, the comfort of knowing and the discomfort of being wrong. Admitting we don't know something or that we were wrong isn't pleasant. It pricks our pride and affects our image in others' eyes. We fear being seen as incompetent or inadequate. So, we often choose the easier path, pretending to know or stubbornly defending our mistakes. Furthermore, rethinking requires mental effort. It's much more tiring than sticking to familiar grooves. Our brain, by nature, tries to conserve energy. So, it prefers what's simple, easy, and familiar. This cognitive laziness also plays a significant role in holding us back from rethinking. Roadblock number 4, tying our identity to our beliefs. This might be one of the biggest hurdles. When we equate who we are with what we believe, any attack on our beliefs feels like a personal attack on ourselves. For example, if you see being a passionate supporter of Team A as a key part of your identity, then when someone criticizes Team A or presents evidence of their poor performance, you'll feel personally attacked. You'll get defensive and argue back rather than consider if the criticism has merit. The same applies to beliefs about politics, religion, or even parenting methods and dietary choices. When beliefs become part of our identity, giving them up or changing them feels like cutting off a piece of ourselves. It triggers a sense of loss and existential unease. Like the firefighters who couldn't drop their tools, we can't let go of beliefs for fear of losing ourselves. As the writer F. Scott Fitzgerald wrote, "The test of a first-rate intelligence is the ability to hold two opposed ideas in the mind at the same time and still retain the ability to function. This requires us to detach ourselves from our ideas. Recognizing these roadblocks is the crucial first step toward overcoming them and starting the journey of mastering the skill of rethinking. If the preacher, prosecutor, and politician modes keep us stuck, what's the way out?" Adam Grant suggests we learn to think like a scientist. Don't worry, you don't need a PhD or a lab coat for this. Thinking like a scientist here means approaching your own knowledge and beliefs with a different attitude. 1. Treat beliefs as hypotheses to be tested. Instead of seeing your views as fixed truths, view them as initial hypotheses. I think strategy A is best, but let's see what the data says. My hypothesis is that method B is more effective. Let's test it. Actively seek disconfirming evidence. Scientists don't just look for evidence that supports their hypothesis. They actively search for data that could disprove it. This is the core difference. Ask yourself, what could prove me wrong? If I'm wrong, what evidence would show that? Who holds an opposing view that I should listen to? Value truth over being right. The scientist's ultimate goal is to understand the world more accurately, not to protect their ego or win an argument. They are willing to change their hypothesis when faced with compelling evidence. They see discovering they were wrong as an opportunity to learn, not a failure to be ashamed of. Embrace intellectual humility. This is the awareness that your knowledge is limited, that you could be wrong, and that there's always something new to learn from others. Humility doesn't mean lacking confidence. It means being aware of the boundaries of your understanding. As Socrates famously said, "All I know is that I know nothing." That's the beginning of wisdom. Nurture curiosity. Scientists are constantly curious about the world, always asking why and what if. Curiosity drives us to explore new ideas, experiment with different approaches, and never stop learning. How can we practice scientific thinking in daily life? 1. Detach your identity from your opinions. Define yourself based on your core values like honesty, kindness, curiosity, fairness, rather than specific opinions like, "I'm a supporter of Party X, I'm a follower of School Y." Then, if your opinion changes, your sense of self isn't threatened. Think, "I'm someone who strives to find the best solution," instead of, "I'm someone who believes solution A is the only right one." 2. Actively seek constructive disagreement. Instead of only associating with people who always agree with you, creating an echo chamber, seek out those with different perspectives, people who respectfully challenge your views. Listen to them with the intention to learn, not just to rebut. Warren Buffett famously invites his critics to dinner to better understand their arguments. 3. Reframe being wrong as a learning experience. When you realize you were wrong about something, don't beat yourself up or feel ashamed. Celebrate it. You just discovered something new and eliminated a false belief. Ask yourself, what did I learn from this mistake? How can I avoid repeating it in the future? Some people even keep mistake journals to record and analyze times they thought incorrectly. 4. Conduct thought experiments. Before making a big decision or strongly defending a viewpoint, try putting yourself in the opposite position. If I were on the other side, what would my arguments be? Suppose the evidence showed the opposite was true, how would I feel? This helps you see the issue from multiple angles. 5. Constantly ask, what might change my mind? This question forces you to identify what evidence or arguments would be strong enough to shake your current belief. It also signals your openness to learning. If you can't think of anything that could change your mind, it's a sign you're in preacher mode or have frozen your thinking. 6. Find confident humility. This is the sweet spot Adam Grant emphasizes. It's not overconfidence, arrogance, thinking you know everything, nor underconfidence, timidity, doubting all your abilities, imposter syndrome. Confident humility is believing in your ability to achieve goals in the future, while still recognizing the shortcomings in your current knowledge and methods. You're confident enough to act, but humble enough to know you need to learn and adapt continuously. You trust your ability to learn, not the perfection of your current knowledge. Cultivating a scientist's mindset isn't an overnight fix. It's an ongoing journey requiring self-awareness, courage, and persistence. But its rewards, clarity, adaptability, and continuous growth are immensely worthwhile. We've talked about how to rethink ourselves, but how do we help others, colleagues, friends, family members, become more open to new perspectives? This is a huge challenge because, as we've seen, people often have strong defense mechanisms when their beliefs are questioned. Adam Grant warns that using the prosecutor mode, attacking, criticizing, or the preacher mode, lecturing, imposing, usually backfires. It just makes the other person more defensive. cling tighter to their views, or worse, damages the relationship. You might win the argument, but you lose at changing their mind and maintaining connection. So, what's an effective strategy? Grant suggests an approach based on active listening and open-ended questioning, inspired by motivational interviewing, a technique often used in counseling to help people recognize and change their own behavior. The core principle: instead of trying to force others to change, create a safe space for them to discover their own reasons for change. 1. Start by finding common ground and acknowledging their point in some aspect. Don't jump straight into refuting them. Try to find something in their argument you can agree with or see the logic in. I can see why you feel that way about X. That's an interesting point you made about Y. I hadn't considered that angle. This shows you're listening, respecting them, and not treating them as an enemy. It lowers defenses and sets the stage for a more open dialogue. 2. Ask open-ended, genuine questions. Instead of making statements or asking closed questions that can only be answered yes/no, ask questions that encourage them to think deeper and explain their own perspective. What leads you to believe that? Could you tell me more about the experience that led you to this view? What would the ideal outcome look like in your view? What difficulties or challenges do you see with the current approach? Are there any situations where this perspective might not fully apply? 3. Listen attentively and empathetically. Listening isn't just being quiet while waiting for your turn to speak. It's truly trying to understand the other person's viewpoint, even if you disagree. Show you're listening with eye contact, body language, and brief verbal cues like, "I see," or "that sounds important to you." Try to put yourself in their shoes. Reflect back what you hear. To ensure you understand correctly and to show them you're listening, summarize or paraphrase what they've said in your own words. "So if I'm understanding correctly, you're concerned about, it sounds like the main thing bothering you is." 5. Gently highlight discrepancies, if any, in their own logic. Instead of directly criticizing, help them notice inconsistencies in their own thinking. For example, if someone says they value health highly but frequently stays up late and eats junk food, you might ask, "Could you share more about how you balance your desire for good health with your current habits?" The story of Darren Davis, the black musician engaging with a KKK leader, in the book is a fantastic example of this technique. He didn't attack. He used the leader's own logic to ask questions, planting seeds of doubt that made the leader rethink his own beliefs. 6. Inquire about flexibility and conditions for change. A powerful question is, what might lead you to reconsider this view? Or under what circumstances might you think differently? This invites them to explore the limits of their current belief and opens the possibility of change rather than making them feel pressured. 7. Express humility about your own knowledge. Acknowledge that you don't know everything either and are also learning. "Honestly, I'm not 100% sure about this myself, but I read/thought about." This creates a more level playing field. 8. Focus on shared motivations and values. Instead of getting bogged down in arguing details, try to connect on a deeper level of shared values. I think we both want what's best for the kids, right? We just have different ideas about how to get there. The key takeaway? Your goal isn't to win or change someone's mind instantly. That's often impossible. The goal is to plant a seed of doubt, open a door for dialogue, and encourage them to start their own process of rethinking. Be patient. Shifting perspectives takes time. As Dale Carnegie wrote in How to Win Friends and Influence People, the only way to get the best of an argument is to avoid it. Instead of arguing, dialogue. Instead of imposing, listen. Instead of attacking, understand. That's the real art of helping others dare to think again. Rethinking isn't just an individual skill. It can and should become a collective capability, part of the culture in our families, schools, and organizations. When people collectively embrace openness, learning, and challenging assumptions, we create environments that are far more innovative, resilient, and effective. In Education, Nurturing Lifelong Thinkers, Adam Grant points out that traditional education systems often focus on transmitting knowledge as if it were fixed fact and testing memorization, rather than encouraging critical thinking and the ability to relearn. Students are often taught what to think rather than how to think. This can inadvertently produce passive learners who are hesitant to ask questions and afraid of making mistakes. To build a rethinking culture in education, we need to encourage curiosity and questioning. Instead of just providing answers, teachers and parents should encourage kids to ask why and what if. Create space for them to explore, experiment, and find answers themselves, even if they make errors along the way. Teach critical thinking skills. Help children distinguish credible information from unreliable sources. Recognize logical fallacies and consider issues from multiple perspectives. Normalize mistakes. Frame errors as a natural and necessary part of learning. Instead of penalizing mistakes, help children analyze them and learn from them. Organize constructive discussions. Teach children how to present their views clearly, listen respectfully to others, and be willing to adjust their thinking based on sound reasoning and evidence. Teachers as role models. Teachers themselves need to demonstrate intellectual humility, admit when they don't know or are wrong, and show a continuous passion for learning. The goal isn't to create know-it-alls, but lifelong learners, individuals equipped to adapt, solve problems, and continually refresh their thinking throughout their lives. At work, creating psychological safety and process accountability. In the workplace, a rethinking culture can be the deciding factor for innovation and long-term success. Yet many organizations unintentionally stifle it. Adam Grant highlights two key elements for building this culture. Firstly, psychological safety. This is the shared belief within a team that it's safe to take interpersonal risks, meaning people feel comfortable speaking up with ideas, questions, concerns, or admitting mistakes without fear of punishment, ridicule, or embarrassment. When psychological safety exists, employees dare to experiment, challenge the status quo, and point out problems. Conversely, if they operate in fear, they'll stay silent and hide errors, and the organization will miss valuable opportunities for improvement. How to foster psychological safety? Leaders play a crucial role. Model vulnerability, admit their own mistakes and uncertainties. Encourage dissent, actively invite feedback, even critical feedback. Thank those who speak up. Provide constructive feedback. Focus on behavior and issues, not the person. Frame failure as a learning opportunity. Analyze root causes instead of assigning blame. Secondly, process accountability. Many organizations focus too heavily on final outcomes, outcome accountability. This can lead people to take safe, familiar paths, or even hide problems to meet short-term targets, rather than re-examining and improving how work gets done. Process accountability means evaluating and valuing the quality of the thinking and decision-making process, not just the result, since results can sometimes be influenced by luck or external factors. How to promote process accountability? Ask for the why. When decisions are made, explanations of the logic, alternatives considered, and supporting evidence are required. Conduct pre-mortems. Before starting a project, imagine it has failed and analyze the potential reasons why. This helps anticipate risks and improve planning. Conduct post-mortems. Analyze both successes and failures after projects to draw lessons for the future, focusing on the process that led to the outcome. Encourage experimentation and learning. Create space for small experiments, accepting that not all will succeed, but all offer learning opportunities. When an organization combines psychological safety with process accountability, it creates a continuous rethinking loop. People feel safe to experiment, learn from mistakes, and constantly improve how they work. This is the foundation for innovation and resilience in a volatile world. So, we've journeyed together through the core, profound ideas from Adam Grant's Think Again. From realizing the vital importance of rethinking, uncovering the psychological barriers holding us back, and learning to think like scientists, to the art of helping others open up and building rethinking cultures in groups. You've probably gathered that rethinking isn't a destination. It's a journey. It's not something you do once and you're done. It's a habit, an attitude that needs daily cultivation. It requires humility to admit we don't know everything, courage to face uncertainty and the possibility of being wrong, and curiosity to keep exploring and learning. In life, we often make plans for the future: 5-year plans, 10-year plans, career plans, and family plans. That's good. But Adam Grant reminds us that sometimes those very plans can become cages that trap us if we aren't willing to reconsider them when circumstances change or when we change. The world changes. We change. So why should our goals, beliefs, and plans remain rigid and unchangeable? Give yourself permission to be flexible, to adapt, to think again about the path you're on, about the person you want to become. Maybe you're considering a career change? Dare to rethink your definition of a stable job. Maybe you're facing challenges in a relationship. Dare to rethink your assumptions about the other person. Maybe you're pursuing a goal that no longer feels right. Dare to rethink what success truly means to you. Rethinking might not always be easy. It can be uncomfortable and unsettling, but its rewards are immense. A more dynamic, creative life with fewer regrets and deeper connections with the world and the people around us. It helps us not just cope with change, but actively shape it. As Adam Grant himself wrote, "We laugh at people who still use Windows 95, yet we still cling to opinions that we formed in 1995. It's time we started upgrading our thinking as regularly as we upgrade our technology." I truly hope that today's insights from Think Again have given you some fresh perspectives and useful tools to apply in your own life. Rethinking really is a precious skill that anyone can cultivate. What idea from our discussion resonated most with you today? Have you ever had a Think Again moment that changed something significant in your life? Please share your thoughts and stories in the comments below. BookSmart Insights would absolutely love to hear from and learn alongside our amazing community. And if you found this video helpful, please give it a like. It really helps motivate me. Share it with friends who you think might also benefit from the power of rethinking. Most importantly, if you're not already part of the BookSmart Insights family, hit that subscribe button and the little notification bell next to it so you don't miss out on any future great books and valuable lessons. Thank you so much for spending your time here and joining me at BookSmart Insights. Remember, intelligence isn't just about how much you know, but about how willing you are to learn and rethink. Keep your minds open and your curiosity alive. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.